Okay, solo boost strategies part 2. Last time we looked at running boosts in front of your amp to get more saturation. This time we're actually going to be interested in making our guitar sound louder overall by using a boost after the amp. So at the moment I've got this modified Brit 800 preset with a cab. Parametric EQ is doing some very surgical cuts, so it's not really doing much audible. It's just kind of taking out some really harsh high frequencies and a bit of high and low pass there. And then the multi-band compressor is just tightening up any palm mutes that I want to do. So think of this as my amp sound here. So you want a solo boost, meaning you want to make your guitar louder. Let's say that on scene 1, that's my main rhythm sound, and then on scene 3 I want this to be my solo sound. So I'm not necessarily wanting to make the amp any more distorted, I just want to make it louder. One way to do that is go to the output block. I'm using output 1. If you're using a different output block, use the corresponding block. Go to scene levels, and in this case, scene level 3, I can increase or decrease the level by as much as I like. So 3 dB is a pretty good boost. We would go from this kind of thing which is pretty cool. It's just like having a sound guy turn your guitar up, which is very nice. We can also achieve the same thing with a null filter block. Basically dial up the filter block, turn it on to start with, and just use the overall level control. So go by 3 dB, and it will give you the same effect. Another way to do that as well is to use a volume block. So if you go to volume pan, let's select one of those. And again, we can just use the level control. Notice that I'm not using the volume control at all, it's just pure level there. So that's how you can make your guitar louder. Another thing that you could do here, say you're using a volume block, rather than assign your external controller like your volume pedal to the volume control, assign it to the level control. Say if you're using pedal 1, and then set the minimum to 0, because we don't want to go any quieter. And then set the maximum, I don't know, to like 9 dB. 9 dB is a massive boost. I would never ever have to boost anything by 9 dB. But what this would let us do is using an expression pedal. You've got the expression pedal heel down, it is your standard signal, and then you can blend in as much boost as you need using that pedal. And the volume pan block is not very thirsty when it comes to CPU. What are we at? 20, say 30-ish%, and then if I shunt it, it takes it down by like, 0.5% or something like that. So that's really great. So that's how you can, a couple of ways really quickly that you can make your guitar just louder. But the guitar lives in the mid-range, so rather than turn everything up, what I find works really great is to use a mid-band focus boost. So you can use a filter block to do that. So if we go into filter, and rather than use a null filter, we're going to use a peaking filter. So I'll set the overall level to 0, and then let's select, like, say, 2K, right there in that mid-range. And what we can do is, rather than boost the overall signal by 3 dB, I'm just going to boost 2K by 3 dB. And this is what it does. It's going to make the guitar kind of sound rude. It's really going to be honkier, but that's what we want. It's going to cut through that mid-range band. And that's really cool. Like I said, it does make the guitar kind of sound ruder, but that's what we want. We want it to announce itself and really be heard in the mix in the frequency band that it lives in. That way what's happening is you're only boosting the mids. Once you've got a mix with the bass and the drums and the other instruments, you don't want to be sort of boosting the low end and overtaking the bass guitar. You don't want to be boosting the high end and clashing with the cymbals. You want to boost the frequency band that the guitar lives in, which is the mid-range. So that's one way to do that. Another way that you can do it is to use a parametric EQ block. In this case, let's go for similar frequencies. We might boost, say, 2000 Hertz by a similar amount. But what the parametric EQ gives us control over is we can do stuff like, say we wanted to apply a high cut in there. Obviously we could use the high cut control in the filter block, but let's say we wanted to use a blocking filter, say at something like 5500 Hertz. So we're actually going to boost the mids, but we're also going to pull out all the frequency content that would be clashing with the cymbals. It sounds like this. So it makes the guitar sound considerably smoother, and what that lets you do is, let's say we then wanted to boost the overall level, let's say by just an extra like 2 dB. So we're really pushing the mids, and we're boosting everything, and then we're also pulling out heaps of high end. I'm also going to pull out a bit of low end. Let's set that to 120 as a blocking filter. So again, we're sort of pushing the mids. Well, we are pushing the mids. What am I talking about? Sort of. We're really, really pushing the mids like crazy, and we're boosting the overall level, but we're keeping stuff out of that like bass and extreme high register stuff. It sounds like this. And again, you might not like the way that sounds on its own, but it's going to be so effective in the mix. Another thing, of course, that you can do is, because we've got extra frequency bands here, if you're finding that that's boosting too much of a particular frequency, let's say like 250 hertz, you can pull some of that out so that it's not getting too crazy. I'll set the overall level back to 0, and let's say we want to pull out just a little bit of 250 with a very narrow Q. Yeah, that's pretty cool. So it gives you this effect. And again, adjust the high and low pass to taste. What I normally do though is this. I would set the low frequency to about there. I would basically leave the high frequency alone, or I might set it, say, to 8K. And then what I'm going to do is use this 2K boost. I'll set the 250 boost off to there. And rather than boost it by 3 dB, what I'm going to do is kind of split the difference. And I'll go just for 2 dB there and 2 dB of overall level, but I will tighten up the Q on this guy. Say to about 1.4, as you can see there. So it's quite a subtle boost. This is what it does overall. And then of course, if you combine these tricks with the pre-boosting tricks, and you've got like a preset which is making your guitar sound more saturated, and you're boosting the overall level or the overall mid-range content after the amp, that's sort of the best of both worlds. So you can combine tutorial 1 and tutorial 2 to get your ideal solo tone. What we'll do in tutorial number 3 is I'll show you how to use delay and other time-based effects to really kind of make your guitar sound more spacious. And then we can combine 1, 2, and 3 to get like ultimate solo tone. So for now, hopefully that gives you guys some options. I mean, really quickly, I love the Parametric EQ, that's my go-to, but the filter block is great. Obviously the overall scene controller or the volume controller is really great. You can use something like a delay block with the level boosted as well, you know, if you just want an overall level boost. But they're my go-tos, and in the next tutorial, we're going to have a look at how we can use delay and time-based effects to really, really get lush solo tones. So cheers for watching. If you guys like the video, be sure to hit subscribe, hit the little bell, and I'll see you guys around very soon.